Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Very well, Eric.
Karibu sana.
Thanks for having me here.
The Honorable Gigi Kagombe is the MP for Gatundu South Constituency, the constituency that has produced 2 presidents.
Yeah, that's our cash crop.
Your cash crop is presidents.
Presidency.
Sawa basi. Sawa. Were you in KU yesterday when the president was there?
No, I was not at KU yesterday. I had some other engagements.
Okay.
Yep.
Karibu sana to the situation room.
Asante.
Mheshimiwa, we've invited you today because you had an event in your constituency where you were handing out bursaries to various applicants from your constituency. Now, bursary obviously is ring-fenced from your CDF at what percent?
At a minimum of 25% and a maximum of 35% of the fund.
Maximum 35%.
Yep.
What is 35% of the amount that you receive in Gatundu South?
Comes to about 41 million. 41 million, yes. So, but which is what I applied to. I applied the maximum because of the strained need for bursary. Actually, I had an application of 9,000. I had 9,000 applications. I only managed to issue to about 6,000 applications so far. So
9,000
individual
students,
applications, yes, had applied for.
All of them residents of Gatundu South.
All of them residents of Gatundu South
had applied for these bursaries.
Yeah.
And you only were able to at least so far give 6 million.
6,000.
6,000, and that has gone to the 41 million.
Yeah. That's what the 41 million has gone
to. So
what's
the average amount that each student is getting?
You know what we did? See, now there will be different categories because, for example, you have primary, secondary schools that are day schools. So the fee is different. So those ones would get about 3,000. Then 5,000 for the boarding secondary schools. 10,000 for tertiary institutions. And 20,000 for what you call special needs, children in special schools. Yeah.
I want to play a clip here of what you said on the day, which is the main basis of our conversation. Okay, you raised several issues that are quite, they've gotten the attention of everybody. So listen to what the Honorable Gigi Kagombe said.
Ati hapa Kiambu shule za upili ambazo zinafundisha watoto wametoka county zingine, sitaki kutaja majina, wanatoka huko wanakuja kusomea hapa kwa sababu kuna quota system. Na kwao hata wakipata hii pesa tunapata ya CDF, hawajengi mashule, hawajengi madarasa kwa sababu watajenga kwa nini na wanajua watoto wao watawapeleka Kiambu wakuja wasomee hapa. Sisi basari yetu inakuwa strained, sisi ndo tunajenga madarasa hapa. Sisi basari yetu inakuwa strained kwa sababu tuko na watoto wengi. Sisi basari yetu inakuwa strained kwa sababu watoto wetu wanapata pesa kidogo. Wale kazi yao ni kujenga majumba kubwa huko na huku Isli na kwingine. Sisi hiyo maneno tumekataa. So sisi tukirudi pale bunge tunasema watu wasomee kwao. Sisi watu wa Kiambu tusomee wapi? Wewe kama mko huko unamjajenga shule, msomee huko. Mjue kama mtasoma chini ya mti. Hapana, sisi tumekata. Ama amujachoka nyinyi? Ati nyinyi mtoto yako amekaa hapa amepata max 350 hawezi kuchukuliwa shule iko kwa kaunti yao. Ati anapelekwa shule nyingine sijui iko wapi na anaenda day school, ati sisi tunanyimwa chance. Na sisi ni wazazi wetu walijenga hizi shule na ni sisi tulijenga hizi shule. Na hata sasa hii ni pesa yetu ya bursary na pesa yetu ya CDF inatumika kuongeza shule na madarasa na maktaba na maabara. Na nyinyi wengine mnakaa huko mnatupigia hapa nduru. Kazi yenu ni kuvaa sufuria kwa kichwa na kuenda kuandamana.
Okay. Maybe you are speaking, you were in public, you saw a microphone, you saw a crowd, and you spoke. Now you've had a moment to reflect on what you're saying. What were you saying?
First of all, this conversation is not about just schools. This conversation is about equality of distribution of the national resources. This conversation is about the Equalization Fund. This conversation is about the CDF and NGCDF. This conversation is not just about schools. I want to tell you, when you find that you saw the incidents in Ruiru where parents died in a stampede looking for bursary. And nobody comes looking for bursary because they don't need it. These are people who are really in need. But you see, the problem we have even in that fund by itself, and there are many funds that we talk about, but that specific fund called NGCDF, that is established under the NGCDF Act of 2015, if you look at what it says about division of that money, is based on constituencies alone. Article 24 of it says that you only, Article 34 1B is the one that specifies how that money will be divided. And it says that it shall be divided equally amongst all constituencies. So it doesn't matter how many people you have in your constituency, it doesn't matter your population of the constituency. So the fund is there at 2.5% of the national amount, and then
so it's
voila,
equal.
It's equal
to all 290.
When we have members of parliament, for instance, who represent maybe 25,000 people. I represent over 150,000 people, going to 80,000 voters. On average, maybe, and according to the last census, and now we are still getting information from the KNBS on now the new data that we have. We're already at 300, but there's no the only article that tries to correct that is now 34 B that says that a quarter of the amount of the 2.5% of the amount that from the consolidated fund, then a quarter of it shall be divided not according to population, but according to the number of wards. So you realize that when I come from a population, when you have a population like Ruiru, for example, that has 160,000 voters, then it tells you that it probably has a student population of maybe 100,000. What that means is that that person with 100,000 students and another person with 2,000 students get the same amount. Where is equality? And that is why we're saying we want 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. And by the way, when I talk about schools, the people who are making noise is people Twitter and a few people on KOT who are just making noise about, you said this is but the actual person who is in those counties that you're talking about would want his members of parliament and his leaders to be put to account on how they spend the money. When we say that you build schools where you are, we mean exactly that.
Okay.
So, and we mean it that we have national resources. We have national resources.
Yeah.
And this money is supposed to help that person, that bottom-up person, that person at the lowest of society. But what happens? What ends up happening is that this money will end up in the hands of a few, those people that I refer to. These people that we say wanajenga manyumba makubwa is not the mwananchi.
Who are these people that you're referring to?
These are not the wananchi.
Who are they?
There are a few beneficiaries. These are the ones who are making noise on social media. A few beneficiaries who are in leadership.
290 people, men and women, who've been elected from specific constituencies.
Yes.
You're one of the 290.
Yes.
So who are these others that you're referring to?
Among the 290.
So they're members of parliament who receive the same kind of money that you.
It's not just members of parliament. It's not just members of parliament.
Let me ask a different question. Perhaps it will help you a little bit more. All right. From these numbers that you speak of, and let's take Kiambu County as an example, are you able to tell us of the students who were awarded these bursaries, because that's a quota system they have an issue with?
Yep.
Of those who were awarded these bursaries, are you able to unequivocally tell which ones are outside or come from outside Kiambu County? Do you know right now?
What we've been forced to do, because of the severity of this case, is that we've even been using IEBC KIMS kits to identify the beneficiaries, the parents of the beneficiaries now.
Okay.
So that we know that they come from our constituencies.
Okay. So all 6,000?
All 6,000 of the ones that you've awarded the bursaries to
are from my constituency. At least their parents are from the constituency, which follows that they are from the constituency.
Okay. So the ones who did not get the bursaries, are from outside Kiambu County?
No. We were just unable to. You see, now we're talking about 3,000 shillings.
I think
what we've been able
let's shift the question the other way around.
Yeah.
Let's start with this. How many schools are there in Gatundu South constituency? How many secondary schools?
28.
28 secondary schools in Gatundu South. Public secondary.
Yeah.
What's the categorization? How many of these are sub-county? How many are county, extra county, and national schools in Gatundu South? Let's start with national.
We have we have 4. I don't have a national school in Gatundu sub-county.
0 national school.
0. 5 provincial.
5 extra county.
5 extra county. The others are just now.
So the others are county and sub-county. So the only schools that are admitting students from outside Gatundu South in Gatundu South are 5.
Yeah.
Out of the 28. So 23 schools in Gatundu South are admitting students from Gatundu South.
Yes.
These 6,000 students that you gave bursary, are they all studying in Gatundu South? Are there some students here, with 6,000 who are in another county?
Outside of Kiambu County?
About 90% are within Gatundu.
Okay.
So 10% is about 600.
Are within the county.
So 600 students out of these 6,000 that you gave a bursary are going to a school outside Gatundu South.
Yes.
Are there those that are going to a school outside Kiambu County?
No.
None. So even those that are among these 600, there are some who are in national schools, but those national schools are within Kiambu County.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your beef?
I told you, my beef is the infrastructure within, and this is not just about Kiambu County. This is about many other counties. You know, when we talk about 1 man, 1 shilling, one vote, it's not about Kiambu County alone. We're just saying that the distribution of finances shall be pegged on the population and not on the vastness or the mass land of land. You get? What I'm saying, therefore, is when we come to Kiambu County, for instance, and this Kiambu County was an example. The same thing with Moranga County, the same thing with Nyeri County, the same thing with the Kirinyaga, Laikipia, and Nyandarua, and a lot of the central province counties, and even in some of the counties, for example, Meru and Tharaka Nithi. So you find a school that has a population of 2,500. Take a school like Mangu, a population of going to 3,000 students. Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at the infrastructure established, and the quota system is then you realize that the monies that are support, and you know these schools, we support them using these funds. For example, when there is a need to do a class, and you know, like, for example, we are moving from to CBC and we needed to do classes for what do you call it? The CBC classes, the 2 classes that we're doing.
Yeah, junior secondary.
These junior secondary schools classes are going to be built using the CDF money.
Yeah.
What it means, and you know how the allocation of those of that CBC was, and the determination by the ministry to decide that this school now can build needs to be awarded a JSS, so you need to create the infrastructure for it. Is that the amounts given to us are very little compared to the populations that we have.
Okay,
you get?
It's a different story. I want to stick on this one story first, and sorry, Ndu, just so we can clearly understand the basis with which you said what you are saying when you're issuing out bursaries. As you've said yourself, out of the 6,000 students that you gave bursaries, right, about 5,400 of them are going to schools within Gatundu South. About 600 of them are going to schools outside of Gatundu South constituency, but still within Kiambu County. Those are the ones who are going to an extra county school and a national school in Kiambu County. No one in your constituency is going to a school outside of Kiambu County.
No.
No one in your constituency has been denied an opportunity to go to secondary school. It's 100% transition.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So nobody has been locked out of a school in Gatundu South or in Kiambu County. But you have a problem with other people coming from other counties to Kiambu County.
That's not it. there are children who've been denied opportunities to attend, depending on their marks, to attend a national school within Kiambu County, to attend to an extra county school within Kiambu County, and have ended up maybe being in a sub-county
school.
Yes.
Yet they
but
scored very high
according to their score, they would have been in. There's a child who was admitted to a school in Kiambu, a provincial or an extra county school or a national school, who had lower marks than one who went to a sub-county school.
I see.
Within my constituency.
And this is where the quota system comes.
That's where the quota system checks
Explain the quota system.
Now, this quota system, first of all, you need to understand, it's a system that was established in 1978.
Yeah.
And it was very noble at that time. It was to look at, first of all, we were strained in terms of even these schools, and we've come a long way from 1978. And the issue was really create parity in distribution of these students to access to developed areas and such things. And really, these are conversation that is honest.
Yeah.
But since 1978, a lot has changed, including we Kenyans sitting in 2010 and saying, we do not like the marginalization that is happening, and we think money is concentrated in some places, so let's devolve our funds.
Yeah.
And we created counties. So what was supposed to be, the quota system of 1978 was supposed to be an affirmative action kind of program.
Yeah.
But what we established in 2010 was supposed to be panacea, was supposed to be to give now a permanent solution to the
marginalization.
To the marginalization and to the inequalities.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is, despite that now, and what we saw when we're even devolving health and devolving schools and education at the basic level, was so that counties are able now to deal with their issues. So you invest. Why would we? And there's also another issue here. There are some schools that you find people fighting over. And you find that even when Matiang'i tried to introduce the system of mapping students from the get-go when they get into school all the way to the university, he was bashed a lot. But I was trying to say that we want to know this child who went to this school, where they got educated and where they sat the exam. Right now as you sit, there are people who will educate their children in very good public or private schools in Nairobi, in high school or in primary school, and book them in other places in those counties that we're talking about, so that they benefit. So they only go there to sit their exams. So that when you're looking at because the only way of identifying a student is where they sat the exam. And where they sat the exam and where they went to school are two different things. And they're not related. So therefore, the quota system is that it creates some points. And you say that, let's say the pass mark is 300, all right?
Yeah.
So you say a child from this county, because there shall be children from these counties, all these counties that shall be picked to attend to down the national schools. Then if you to pick 1,000 students from that county, then it so follows that they will be below, their marks will be below some students in other counties who had performed better. You understand? And that's the quota system.
So, for example, a student scoring 380 in a school in Gatundu South, comparing to a student who scores 380 in a school in Isiolo, for instance, those two are not treated the same.
They're not treated the same.
The one who scores 380 in a school in Isiolo would get a first opportunity to a national school.
To come to Mangu, but the one with the 370 cannot attend even an extra county school within the county. You understand? So these are the issues that we're talking about. And now there are two issues here: the quota system and the finances around it. Now, this school that is in Kiambu County or is in Murang'a County that we want to attend to come to has been built from finances that was specifically for that sub-county or that county.
Is that really a fact?
That's a fact.
Are we talking about,
I am telling you,
are we talking about national schools or extra county schools?
All of them. If you want to do a class in Mangu, let me tell you, City, if you want to do a class in Mangu right now, if Mangu needs a class, and the Ministry of Education has not been able to provide a class, that infrastructure shall be created by the Member of Parliament using the CDF amount.
Yes. I wasn't talking about the extra class. I was talking about the establishment of the school.
The establishment, some of these schools are very old. They were even way beyond the NGCDF.
Yes, they were. You see, the quota system you speak of gives the county or the area that the school is nestled in 85% of the opportunity to have their students in that school, and only 15% from outside that particular county.
That is in the law, but it's not followed.
I don't know, actually. That's the whole point.
It's in the law, but it's not followed. And this is what I'm telling you now, that for that purpose,
Yes.
then someone will come and register there. That's why I'm talking about the registration of exam centers. That you find someone, according to this quota, then this is where we need our children to be. So this is where we take our children to go and sit the exams there. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to come and you are a resident of that, so that when we're talking about the distribution of resources, then you are counted in it, so that we factor you in. And then again, how do you do that? That's why we're saying that we want this money to be divided according to the population.
And not the schools. Let's take a break.
Not schools, okay.
That's the point.
There's a mix
The whole
of
point
issues.
here is
Let's take
1
a
man,
break.
1 shilling.
Let's take a break and then we come back and continue. 25 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Gigi Kagombe is the Member of Parliament for Gatundu South Constituency. He is here this morning to talk about the issue of equitable distribution of resources and also accessing of schools and education. He says the students who come into schools in Kiambu County from outside Kiambu County, and that is disenfranchising students who are in Kiambu County, who are residents of Kiambu County, whose parents are actually contributing to the development of Kiambu County. Okay, come to understand on that.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The Honorable Gigi Kagombe is a Member of Parliament for Gatundu South Constituency. He's here. So, Ndu had interjected a number of your questions. Please go.
No, I think I'm looking at. I think there's a cacophony of issues here, Mheshimiwa. I'm hearing you say, over and above all of this, that the issue of the apportioning of funds to the population within each devolved unit seems to carry the day in all of the things that you've said here. And you're not the first one to have brought it up. That there should be 1 man, 1 shilling, and many have carried that argument. When we're looking at schools, just based on what you've said today, I don't know that the issue really is that there are many students coming from outside Gatundu South who are then attending school, and then there's an issue. I don't see the struggle there. I hear you saying, over and above everything else, that there needs to be infrastructure that guarantees the delivery of resources commensurate to the population that exists within whatever devolved unit, at whatever level.
Yep.
Am I right so far?
That's it.
All right. So then shouldn't we be looking at clamoring for legislation that guarantees the delivery of those resources to the population? Because the politics will come in and we could muck things up. But here we are saying that there's a bigger issue here, and education can come into play, but the resource mobilization and providing of those resources seems to be a heavier issue.
Yeah, the distribution. Actually, the issue...
Could that have been the speech you made that day instead?
The actual issue here is, if you listen to that clip at the end, if you had gone further, you would have heard I said, even if it means coming to you, the people, even if it means a referendum, we're willing to have it. Because I wanted to look at the consolidated fund that is guaranteed under Article 224, and you look at first of all, let me describe where the inequalities are.
Okay.
So we have the counties. We have the counties that are considered to be ASAL counties, and so they benefit from the Equalization fund. All right. Then you have an establishment of NGCDF that I've just told you about, which is another fund, which I told you has no fairness, has no parity, because it doesn't look at the population of the people who are beneficiaries of that amount that goes into the constituency and just says, this is it. The cure to that would be, then we have an equal or a set number of population within constituencies, so that you say a constituency shall be that devolved unit that has 100,000 people, for instance. So that when you say that we're taking this money to the constituencies, then you know, if you say you're giving 100 million, then it is fair. Then every devolved unit or every such similar unit has an equal number of people. The best way to look at it would be to look maybe by the number of registered voters, let's say. Yeah? So we say that a constituency shall be a unit that has this number of people.
Okay.
So that if you have a unit that is more than that, say you have one unit that has 200,000 people, then you consider that to be two constituencies. So that even in parliament, when you're voting, then the vote of that member who represents 200,000 people then has double the weight of the other member who has, represents less.
So already currently,
so that even in distribution of resources, then when we say that the CDF Act shall be divided equally amongst all constituencies, then there's fairness. Or counties, then there's fairness.
Currently,
yes,
constituencies are based on a minimum number of people.
Yes.
Yeah, the population is at a minimum.
Yes.
So you want it to have a minimum and a maximum. So I say a constituency shall not have more than X number of residents.
Yes.
And if there's X number of residents, then they move into the next.
Alternatively,
because this is what happens with the ward.
Alternatively, then you say that when you're distributing these finances, then we shall look at the number of the people in that constituency. Then we shall prorate it.
Okay.
So
you weight it according to the number.
You weight it according to the number of people within the constituency.
But development is not only about humans.
It is largely about humans.
It's also about everything else. Yeah, there's humans, but the humans, for example, in a constituency like the one for the guest that we had the other day from Wajir, Adan Kainan's constituency, right? It's larger than Kiambu County plus Muranga County combined. It's one constituency.
You see, you must look at the parameters of development and parameters that guide the division of money in the government. The funds that we're talking about, if the government decides to do a road from Garissa to whatever it is, or from Isiolo to Marsabit, for instance, that money is not in these funds, and that is not the money we're talking about.
Nice.
The infrastructural development that belongs to the county government and the infrastructural development that belongs to the national government is not part of this conversation that we're talking about. And you must also understand that even those counties, when we're talking about the vastness of the counties or those sub-counties, we have an equalization fund. And the work of that equalization fund is to make sure that these constituencies that may have this number of the larger, or they might be more vast than others, then they benefit from that fund.
Benefit.
You get
those that were historically marginalized.
Exactly.
But
then
however,
you also need to.
However, Mheshimiwa, this fund has never been operationalized.
Well,
we have 7 years to go.
And we have been given 20. Are we at 14 already? At 13? Yeah, from
2023.
From 2020, yeah, to
2030.
But you see, even within if you see the distribution of the county, of the funds that go to the counties now, and I think it's 227. Yeah.
And the county allocation of revenue.
Yeah, county allocation of revenue. Then the vastness of those counties are also considered.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So there's a lot of, and it is good. But in the effort to compensate and have parity, then we have done it the other way, and we have now started. Actually, if you look at the definition of marginalized, you realize that we have people within Gatundu South who are marginalized. I mean, because it is about your ability as a person to afford education. If you're telling me that I have ability to afford, but I live in Wajir, let's say, for instance, and I have someone who really has no means of educating their children, but they're within Gatundu South. But those people are not considered. Nobody cares about you. Nobody wants to. That money that should have been allocated to you is not anywhere.
You know,
and you see now, if you look at the marginalization within the Act, sorry, just a minute, it talks about places that were actually uses the word traditionally marginalized areas. But you see, a lot of things have changed since then. There's no banditry that used to be in some places where people now would be disadvantaged because they cannot go to school and such things. Now, with the devolution, we're supposed now to take care of our own areas. And we have this money that comes, well, we have the challenges that I have had in the news just now with the county governments and the council of governors. But you see, that's just a hitch that we're going to correct within this budget period. But in perpetuity, then we have people from highly concentrated areas suffering at the expense of the sparsely populated areas, and that is what we want to fix. We are not talking.
No, but that is not a true statement, Mheshimiwa. They are not suffering. No, it isn't. They are not suffering at the expense
of.
No.
It is at the expense. We only have one consolidated fund.
Let me explain to you why I'm saying they are not suffering at the expense. Your earlier argument got to the heart of the matter when you talked about marginalization and understanding what the concept actually means. Now, you see, the people who determined how revenue should be allocated were considering what we call historical marginalization, meaning certain areas of this, and by the way, they're not even historical, it was policy that development would not really focus in certain areas and would focus in others. It was policy.
Yep.
Now, that was the discussion that brought about things like the Equalization Fund. Now, the problem you're talking about now comes with what we call the implementation of our constitution. We have a constitution, these things were written, we had a commission that was set up to actually now breathe life into this thing. Now, breathing life would have meant dealing with the same issues that you now have, because members of parliament say, this marginalization thing, we get it, but as our cities have grown, we have large populations of people who are marginalized. As the satellite counties and cities around Nairobi have also grown, this same problem is there. Now, that discussion would have catered for them. So, you who is in parliament and the people with you still have the power to rectify this thing that we're talking about. That's what you guys are there for.
Legislation is not just done on the floor of the house. There is something we call public participation, and what we are doing on Friday is public participation. Is engaging the public and asking them so that the information that I take to Parliament is not based on what I think in my head. Well, there's part of that, but then largely, and this is the Constitution, we should consult with those people. So you need to engage the public, get the mood of the public, get to understand whether what I'm saying is actually the mood of the public. And you have for yourselves. It is the mood of the public that we need to have that rationalization. Because when you go to Parliament, what is going to inform even the support that you get in Parliament? You see, we can't just sit and just do documents. They will not be looked at. What is going to inform the support of that document, for example, that we are likely to bring on the issue of 1 man, 1 shilling, is the public participation and the publicity that we created around that area, so that people, we get people to understand the issues around it, even other fellow members of Parliament. Okay. And I would expect to get support even from those members from those counties that have been benefiting from this in perpetuity, because I would believe that they also want parity for other Kenyans.
Okay, so do you feel, because obviously you seem to be stuck hard and fast to this. So if this is the case, then would students who are Kiambu residents, should they also, and they happen to be going to school in other parts of the country, should they also come back and go to school only in Kiambu County? And should it then be a rule of law, should be accepted across board that they should not go to school anywhere else except in Kiambu County, where provision has been made for them?
By the way, this is not even a very unique or new case. In China, if you come from
Kiambu County,
let me just finish. We always look at things from perspective and in comparatively. In China, when you live in Guangzhou and you want to go to school in another province, even your school fees is higher. In America, you only go to school if you live in Boston and maybe you live in a certain neighborhood. You only go to school within that neighborhood, all right?
Do you know why?
And wait a minute, I'm coming to it. And I know the issues around it. So I'm saying it's not something that is very.
It's not unique.
It's not unique, and it's not very.
It's not a new
It
idea.
just depends on how we formulate our own. So that we say in Kiambu, we have this number of students. This is our population. These are our schools' needs. And then we create them.
But the why is extremely important. Those examples that you've given of China, of the United States, for example, the system has been created in such a way that it doesn't matter where it is that you live. The public system has been guaranteed to deliver quality education.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
In every area. My question was, are you then saying that Kiambu resident students who go to other schools outside of Kiambu County should also come back to Kiambu County?
That's what I'm saying.
They should.
So you move the ones who are here and you create. You see what I'm saying? You know,
No, I really don't.
No, what you're saying now.
Just a minute, sit. Let me explain it to you. What you're saying is the point of devolution, for instance, was to create parity across the country. That is why every year we allocate money and send it to counties, so that we identify our development infrastructure that we need for the people to cater for our people. We establish it, and over time, then we shall be sufficient.
Who's responsible for establishing schools in the country?
Is the Ministry. Well, you see now, the problem is that it's supposed to be the Ministry of Education, and that brings us to another conversation of why you've had a lot of people trying to fight the NGCDF and saying, it's about members of parliament. But why, for example, would I be giving bursary? I give bursary because the Ministry of Education should have identified the students who are incapable of paying for their bursaries and probably created a way within the ministry to cater for it. I want to tell you the things that we do with CDF, for instance. I'll go and build a police station because there is insecurity in a certain area, and the members have said that now we have insecurity here, establish a police station or a police post. This should have essentially been the work of national government, maybe interior
and public works,
whatever it is, to do that. But there's the law as it is, and the law as we would want to be the reality on the ground. Yeah? So on the ground, it is that a lot of our infrastructure has not been working, and specifically so because there are people who do not want things to work because they benefit from them. That is why when you give money to devolution, then people do not, then counties do not use their money the way they should, because essentially or traditionally it has been that we are marginalized, and it will continue like that even after 10-13 years of devolved fund and equalization and funds that are considered for that inequalities. So what we're saying is, over time, and this may not happen tomorrow, but over time, what we need to do is establish that children from Kiambu County, a child from Garissa County is able to be born in Garissa County and go to school there and enjoy quality education like someone who is in Kiambu and someone who is in Nairobi.
I want you to define something for me, because as you're speaking, there's something which I don't have with clarity. When you say residents of Kiambu, who qualifies to be a resident?
I mean, every Kenyan qualifies to be a resident in Kiambu.
So you're saying the hodgepodge mixture of people who have worked in Kiambu, lived, not necessarily indigenous to Kiambu.
Not necessarily.
But they are
residents.
But there are people who've worked there, who've lived there, who have grown up there, they're residents.
Yes.
And these things should benefit them.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. If you're born in Kisumu, for instance, and at some point in your life you came and started living in Nairobi and in Kiambu, and then you're a resident of Kiambu. This is not about tribalism. This is not about the indigenous.
So you could be a resident of Kiambu, but you still vote in Kisumu, are you?
No, you're not a resident of Kiambu. By residents, we look at
the voter.
At the voter, yes. At the voter. And that's why when we're giving bursary, we look at the people who voted.
I hear what you said, Mheshimiwa, but I think the bigger conversation here is about the equity in our public school system. Because if you look at these 28 Gatundu South secondary schools, none of them is a national school. Only 3 are extra county schools. The others are county and sub-county schools.
Yes.
You should be confident in making sure that whether a child scored 380, whatever school they go to, within Gatundu South constituency, they are getting the same quality of education
No matter what.
as those 2,500 children who are in Mangu High School.
That's exactly what I said. And I said that we want to establish a system.
So it doesn't matter where
Doesn't matter where we go to
that
school.
child has come
so
from.
that we stop this
as long as it's the same.
stampede and this scrabble for some schools in some areas. You find even people in very high offices. You go to some offices, you find the principal's office has a queue.
So
Why?
you wouldn't be opposed to the decategorization of schools?
So equalize all
wouldn't
these
be.
schools.
You wouldn't be.
I wouldn't be.
Equalize all
Equalize
the
the schools.
schools.
Give us the resources that are commensurate to our people. Because you see, when I go to parliament, I go and represent the people of Gatundu South, and they have numbers, and so therefore I wouldn't be opposed to delocalization and do categorization of schools.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very
We've heard you. We wanted to hear you. We wanted to understand exactly where you're coming from, and now we do. We at least have a bit of clarity on what exactly you meant. The Honorable Gigi Kagombe is the Member of Parliament for Gatundu South constituency. So on this conversation about one man, one vote, one shilling, it's now starting to come up again. And so we have also invited the Honorable Gathoni wa Mushomba to come tomorrow because she is spearheading that conversation in Parliament.